Recently, head coach of the Bears, Ben Johnson, has made indirect and direct comments against his former quarterback in Jared Goff. But one of the other superstars of the Lions has risen to the occasion and is now showing that the Lions are ready for a battle when they play against their rival. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, folks, as we already know, Ben Johnson used to be the former offense coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Here's the thing. Ben Johnson has already made a couple of comments this offseason, both indirect and directly, that have been kind of, centered on, his former quarterback, Jared Goff. And in one sense, because of those comments, Ben Johnson has kind of called down the thunder on himself for both himself as a coach, but also for his team, by repeatedly making these, kind of slights, these kinds of jokes against his former quarterback. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, David, you're just reading too much into it. Well, it's not just me who's read into it. There have been plenty of other people that have made comments on it. There are plenty of other people who have talked about it. There are plenty of other people who have had the same perceived notions that I have had. It's not like I just made all this stuff out of nowhere and I'm the only one who thinks this. And these comments that we're talking about is the one where at the scouting combine, actually both of them were at the scouting combine, is where Ben Johnson stated he was excited, that it got him going about the fact that having Caleb Williams being, mobile, having the ability to escape and extend plays and look for the explosives down the field, whether it was with his legs or his arm, that was something he had never had before, which that to some people, again, not just myself, looked as if he was taking an indirect shot at Jared Goff. But then there was another comment that he made where this one I do believe was a joke. But again, it's a joke that didn't need to be made in the fact that apparently when the Lions were trying to get a play for Penei Sewell to throw the ball, that somehow Penei Sewell threw a prettier ball than Jared Goff while they're at practice trying to experiment in how to figure that whole play out. Which, I'm going to say this, while that play was an interesting design, as we all know, it failed epically. And while I've talked, obviously, about the play before, I've talked about, the whole comments that, Ben Johnson has made before, and how he has already added more fuel to the flame and has definitely intensified this rivalry between the Bears and the Lions, obviously due to the fact of him being a former, Lions offensive coordinator, and then the comments. I've already talked a little bit about that. But one of the other Lions superstars took a shot back and provided information kind of into the mind of what Jared Goff is going to be and what we can expect going into the 2025 season when we get set to play the Bears twice. And who's that superstar? That superstar would be Jared Goff's number one wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And what did St. Brown have to say? Well, St. Brown was on his podcast with his brother, Equanimous, and they kind of got into the whole thing, and St. Brown said this. He stated this. He says, it's just going to give Jared that much more fire when we play the Bears. Am I here for it? I'm here for it. Now, let's understand something here. What St. Brown is in essence saying is that for Jared Goff, the comments that have been made, they're going to amp up him. They're going to get Goff much more competitive, much more in a mindset, much more in a zone when the Lions are getting set to play the Bears. And obviously, that was already going to be the case because, like I said, the fact that Ben Johnson is the former offensive coordinator, those two have had a relationship for 3+ years. But when you add the comments into it, it just amplifies it. It makes it even more so. Well, let's understand something. Amon-Ra St. Brown's not just saying that off the cuff just to say something for the hell of it. Obviously, St. Brown and Goff have talked probably a little bit about it. Obviously, St. Brown knows what Goff is thinking because those two have great chemistry, great communication. So there's got to be something behind all this. It's not just St. Brown just talking for the hell of it. And understanding who Goff is, let's just call it for what it is. Goff has always been a very competitive person. He would have to be in order to, one, be in the NFL, but also, two, to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, which he is. But if there's one thing we know, it is that Goff does have a damn outstanding memory, and he does remember comments and other slights that are thrown against him, and he definitely uses that stuff to bring out the best performances in himself. Again, we've heard Goff talk about how the whole thing went down with the Rams. We've heard Goff talk about how when people wanted to say he wouldn't throw the ball deep, he's like, what, you guys just want me to throw the ball deep so that way you can say I did it? We know Goff pays attention. We know that Goff hears that stuff. He doesn't necessarily let it affect him, but he definitely hears it. Well, think about this. Understanding what Ben Johnson has said, and that obviously Goff has heard it, and the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown is saying that that is going to fire up Goff, let's take a look-see, if you will, at just how Goff, over the last couple of years, since 2022, has absolutely destroyed the Chicago Bears. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, David, you're putting that out there, but that's also with Ben Johnson as his coach. I don't give a damn. I believe John Morton is a better coach than Ben Johnson, and I believe we're going to see that, and I've already talked about that before. So whether or not Ben Johnson was the one calling the plays or not makes no damn bit of difference. I believe that John Morton is going to not only do exactly what Ben Johnson was able to do and get out of Goff, I believe, as I've stated before, that he's going to get even more out of Goff. And when you take a look and you put that into context, take a look at what Goff has done against the Bears since 2022 in terms of his statistical production. Since 2022, Goff has completed 66.5% of his passes. That's fourth best out of all quarterbacks that have played against the Bears in that time frame. He has the most passing yards out of all quarterbacks since that time frame that have played against the Bears. He is tied for second most in terms of pass average per throw against all other quarterbacks that have played the Bears. Number one in passing touchdowns. Also has the second highest pass touchdown percentage per throw. He has a 99.1 passer rating, tied fourth highest out of all quarterbacks that have played against the Bears. And obviously the money one is Goff is 5-1 against the Bears since 2022. So think about that. Goff has absolutely shredded, destroyed, absolutely made a laughing stock of the Bears over the last couple of years. And again, you can say what you want about that being about with Ben Johnson, but like I said, John Morton, David Shaw, the fact that JMO has erupted, the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown is there, the fact that Laporta is there, the fact that we still have one of the best offensive lines, the fact that we've got, Sonic and Knuckles. All of those pieces are still going to be there, and I fully expect that John Morton is going to exploit those guys better than Johnson ever could. But let's put something else further into context here. Those are just the stats of how Goff has done against the Bears since 2022. I know some other people are going to say, well, that's a ways back. What does that have to do with anything? I'm using that to catapult into this next comparison. How has Goff done against the supposed vaunted Bears monsters of the Midway since last year? Oh, now it gets even better. When you take a look at Goff's stats against the Bears for 2024, this is what you see. Goff against the Bears in 2024 had a 66.7 completion percentage, which was fifth best. He also had 557 yards, which was second best. He had an 8.4 average per throw, tied for fourth. He had 5 touchdowns, which was the most out of all quarterbacks last year against the Bears, which was number 1. And I'm talking about this in a minimum of 50 attempts because it's like I don't want just a guy that went in for like 5 or 10 attempts. He also has the second highest pass touchdown percentage per throw. He also had no interceptions, had the second highest passer rating at 118.1, and as we know, we beat the Bears twice last year and went 2-0. Now, why do I say the Bears' vaunted defense, the supposed monsters of the Midway? Oh, here's why. Because the Bears' defense has historically been nicknamed that. But last year, let's just call it for what it is. The Bears were anything but monsters on defense. Let's just put it so bluntly, the Bears were about as dangerous as infant bear cubs. So much that's reason why I'm saying that. So let's think about this. The reason I made that comment is because of just like how Johnson did with Goff with the Sewell comment about how Sewell supposedly can throw a better ball with him, how it was a ha-ha, he-he kind of joke. I also can make fun of his new team since he wants to insult and make fun of his old quarterback, my quarterback. But I also want to throw this last thing out there too. If there's one thing that we know about our team, the Detroit Lions, it's that the Lions love Jared Goff, and they will instantaneously run to his defense and give him all that they can and give them everything that they've got. Again, go back to what Frank Ragnow said about Jared Goff at the end of the season. He said he was his ride or die with Goff. So think about it. The offensive line protects their quarterback both in a physical aspect, but also in an emotional one. The reason I know that is go back to 2022. I believe we were at Chicago when this happened. Well, remember when Goff took a scramble, picked up a first down, I think it was like 10 or 11 yards. Goff got shoved late out of bounds, and Goff was not exactly happy about that. He was very, irate about it. Well, take a wild guess who was right there defending Goff. Oh, that was the entire offensive line. Ragnow, Decker, the whole lot of them. And also the rest of the team. They were making sure that the Bears knew, hey, you're not going to mess with our quarterback. And so that ensued a little short scuffle. Nothing serious. It wasn't like a fight broke out or, anything crazy. But still, the precedence I'm trying to set here is that the Lions are going to make sure that, hey, we not only have Goff's back in terms of a physical component, but also an emotional one. But also think about this. It's not just the offensive line that's also in Goff's corner. Think about the wide receivers. Both of our wide receivers, J-Mo, Amon-Ra St. Brown, other guys like Laporta and Patrick, they have come to Goff's defense, and they have also stated that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. They have stated they like Jared Goff a lot. So what's my ultimate point here? My point here is that those comments that Ben Johnson made, whether they're indirect, whether they're direct, whether they were, intended to be a shot or not, they're bulletin board material. And the point of the matter is, Goff does hear that stuff. He does retain it. He doesn't let it bother him, but he does retain it. And what it's going to do is, as Amon-Ra St. Brown said, it's going to give Goff a massive energization for the not only matchup they've got coming up against the Bears for himself, but it's also going to be for the entire team because the entire team is going to be there. But the offense especially, I believe, is going to be there to make a point to not only the Bears, but to Ben Johnson. The point of the matter is that Ben Johnson, as soon as he decided to start making those comments, whatever you want to call them as, he put a huge big bullseye on himself and his team's back after the way he made those comments. Is like, okay, dude, you didn't have to say anything like that. You didn't have to be that kind of way. You could have said something else, or you could have done the better thing and just not said anything at all. It's not like you had to tell everybody what you had to think about Caleb Williams or, Penei Sewell. You could have kept those thoughts to yourself and not said a damn thing. But now the Lions have that bulletin board material, so does Goff especially, and I believe that the Lions are going to use it to continue to throttle the Bears like they've done in recent years, and it's going to add more pressure, more fire, more of a competitive rivalry to an already lopsided rivalry. Because again, 5-1 over the last 3 years, the Lions have beaten the Chicago Bears, and I believe this, it's not going to get any easier. When you've got a former coach that wants to make all these comments, and then Goff doesn't say anything, but Amon-Ra St. Brown says that it's going to fire and energize Goff up, I fully believe 100% that when we play the Bears this year, those are going to be two really, really good games from our team, because I would expect that the team is going to be like, okay, we know who's on the other sideline. We know what he has said about our quarterback. We know that our quarterback, while he's not going to make it about himself, we're going to make sure to give him the best chance to give the best performances that he can possibly give. Which, let's consider something. Goff gave a 100% completion game last year. Goff gave a perfect passer rating game last year. When you get Goff going, when Goff is really on his A game, he can shred apart defenses unlike anybody. He's an absolute brilliant surgeon of a quarterback when it comes to diagnosing and destroying opposing defenses, especially when he's got a chip on his shoulder, which I can guarantee you this. Again, Goff does hear what's going on. He doesn't let it bother him, but when it comes time, he uses that as motivation so that way he can get the best out of himself. And I can guarantee you this, that rivalry we're talking about with the Bears, that lopsided one, it's not going to make the situation any easier for them. Because I don't care what the Bears do this offseason, they're not going to catch up with the Lions. Not as far as being able to compete with them to topple them off their perch. Oh, sure, they're going to get better. But I don't think they're going to be better enough to where the Lions are going to have to worry seriously about them, taking them from their throne of being the NFC North Division title winners. But anyway, that's just me. Having said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also encourage y'all to share it on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, share anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. Whether it's your first time watching me or you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I hope y'all got something from the content. Hope y'all enjoyed the content. Also hope everyone has something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.